Hey, welcome back to my channel. Glad you're here. And today I am going to be sharing my favorite secret way to build credit very easily, very cheaply, and with very low risk. And credit is something that there is so much confusion about, and people do the right things at the wrong time, and they do the wrong things thinking they're the right things, and there's just so many ways that it goes badly for people. And I have come to realize that you can build really good credit, and it's actually a lot simpler and easier than people realize. Credit cards are just like any other tool. They're a powerful tool. And so you can think of credit cards kind of like a chainsaw or a race car. If you don't know how they work and how to use them safely, there's a lot of ways that goes badly for you. If you are trying to chop down a tree, chainsaw is your best friend. But if you don't understand how a chainsaw works and you pick it up and start horsing around with it, there's a lot of ways that goes badly for you. Case in point, my dad many years ago was using a chainsaw, cut down a tree in our backyard, and he couldn't quite get the leverage, and he stepped around to try to get a better angle on it, and he stepped into the back of the chainsaw blade with his leg right above the knee and just chainsawed right into his thigh there. He's fine, just mostly embarrassed, but went to the emergency room and got all stitched up. But yeah, you need to treat a lot of these powerful tools with respect, and credit cards are very powerful tools, and it's really important to understand how they work and how to use them safely. And then when it comes to building credit, you couldn't ask for anything better. Credit cards have two massive advantages over any other type of credit, really, for building credit cheaply and effectively. The first advantage is that, contrary to popular belief, you can build credit using credit cards and never pay a penny of interest. Every other type of credit that you get, you are paying interest from the day you sign that loan contract till the day you pay it off. Every single day, interest. Credit cards, however, have what is called a grace period built into them, which usually goes for 30 to 60 days, depending on when you make the charge, that you can carry those charges on the credit card interest-free. And a mistake that a lot of people make with credit cards is thinking, oh, I have to pay interest in order to build credit. That sounds like a raw deal. The only winning move is not to play. That is incorrect. You can use credit cards in such a way that you build credit in the credit system without having to pay interest, because what is required in order to build positive payment history, you are able to do inside of the grace period, meaning you never have to pay interest if you don't want to. But the second advantage is even bigger. The second advantage is that credit cards are the only type of credit that basically can last the rest of your life, potentially. I actually saw a credit report that had a credit card with 48 years of consecutive history on it. Again, if you understand how to use them and use them correctly, that is their potential. And history, time, is a massive factor on your credit. A lot of people have heard you don't want to close your credit cards, especially your oldest credit card, because that's really bad for your credit, which is exactly correct. Because one of the big things with your credit score is it can be helpful to think of it like your resume. It's like, a credit application. It's kind of like a job application. But instead of applying for a job, you are applying for someone to give you money, to loan you money. And they're looking for certain things. And one of the things they're looking for is confidence. They want to feel confident that if they lend you money, you are going to pay them back. And not just that you're going to pay them back the whole amount, the whole credit system, the most important thing with it is that you are going to make your payments on time. So what they really want to see is they want to see your habits, and they want evidence of how good you are, how experienced you are at borrowing reasonable amounts of money and making your regularly scheduled payments on time. That is the most important factor in according to most credit score calculation models. So the more of that you can show, the more confident a lender is going to be that if they lend you this money, they are going to get those monthly payments like clockwork, and eventually that is going to lead to them getting their money back and their interest, and they will say that was a good decision. And so what they want to see is lots of evidence that you do that, and you do it well, and you have done it for lots of other people who have also lent you money, okay? Going back to the second big advantage of credit cards is that credit cards, again, can stay open potentially for decades. And what that means is there is the potential for a massive amount of data, of history, of your habits. So when you pay a loan off, it kind of has the same effect as closing a credit card. Okay, so let's say, for example, you open a credit card and you get a personal loan at the same time. And the personal loan is for 3 years. And you take the full 3 years to pay it off. So you have the personal loan and the credit card that are running in parallel, and you're making payments on both of them. Right before you make the last payment on the personal loan, that line of credit on your credit history is at its most valuable because it has the most time. Okay, it has almost a full 3 years of history on it at that point. So does the credit card. Here's the key difference. When you send in that final payment at year 3 on that personal loan, it closes. You don't owe any money anymore. So that loan closes and converts from an active contributing factor to your credit score to yesterday's news. Now, that's a little melodramatic, but the point is that over and over again, I have talked to people where they think intuitively, but incorrectly, that when they make that last payment, their credit is going to go up, only to be met with the unpleasant surprise that the next month, when that account reports as paid in full and now closed, their score drops. It drops because they have just lost that account as an active contributor to their credit score. And part of that is active accounts are the best predictors of how you're doing right now. If you paid off a car loan 3 years ago, that's great. Good for you. Excellent. You're applying for the loan now. What's happened in the last 3 years? Have you changed jobs? Did you get married? Did you get divorced? Did you have kids? Did you have to move to take care of a sick family member? They don't know. That is why there is such a huge weight attached to what's happening right now, to active open accounts. Okay? That is why credit cards are so valuable, because when you pay them down to zero, they just keep going. They stay open. And if you can just keep using them a little bit, making payments, they will just go on and on and on, continuing to build more and more history over a longer and longer time and becoming more and more valuable on your credit resume. That is a huge advantage. Every other type of loan, you can think of it like a credit card that has an expiration date. Where credit cards themselves, yes, they literally have an expiration date when the physical card expires, but then usually they'll send you a new one. But the credit line itself does not have an expiration date. So, a couple of things that people mess up with this, which can be very expensive in time and wasted effort. People really underestimate how big a factor the calendar is in building and maintaining good credit. You wouldn't think it, but the calendar is a huge factor and something critical to understand. This is because there is only one day out of each month when each of your credit accounts reports to the credit bureaus. Okay? One day out of the month. With credit cards in particular, what this means is that you can do whatever you want with that credit card for the most part, 29 days out of the month, and it will have zero impact on your credit for good or bad. You can't do anything to change your credit between reporting dates. You could think of the reporting date kind of like if you went to a public school as a kid and they would have school picture day. So that was the one day out of the year when it really mattered that your hair was combed and that you had a clean shirt on and that it wasn't inside out and just different things like that. Because that's the one day they were taking your picture. And how you look on that day is what you're stuck with. So, doesn't matter how you looked the day before, doesn't matter how you look the day after. It only matters how you look on picture day. And so you want to make sure you know when picture day is and that you look good in the sense of you look the way they want you to look to get positive results for your credit. The other 29 days of the month, no one's looking. No one's taking your picture. No one cares. If you do your hair and do all this stuff and come to school in a tux and it's not picture day, no one cares. The system doesn't even have a way to register and report. So the calendar is critical. You need to know when picture day is. Picture day is also known as the statement date. That is the day when each of your credit card accounts, and it can vary from card to card. So it is important within the first within the first month or two of getting a new card to look at your statement and figure out when that statement date is, because that is the one day when they take your picture and it recalculates your credit score. Okay? Now, how do you want to look on picture day? It's actually very simple. You want to have a small, non-zero balance on picture day. The reason for that is because, as I said before, what they are looking for is they want to see that you are really good at borrowing reasonable amounts of money and making on-time payments. In good times and bad, in sickness and health, you make your payments. And the cool thing is, you don't have to pay a penny extra above what the minimum payment is. It is a binary. It is a yes or no. Did you make the required payment on time? Yes or no. That is all that reports. If you look at your credit report, it's just green check marks or red X's. Okay? It's binary. Yes or no. Understanding that, you can save yourself a lot of stress and a lot of money by just making sure that every month for the statement date, you have a large enough balance, which I recommend about $25. Less than that sometimes isn't enough to report, and it reports as a zero. More than that is just not necessary, and the higher you get, it can have negative effects, at least for the next 30 days. So 25, 30 bucks, that is the sweet spot. As long as you have 25 or 30 bucks, when they take your picture on the statement date, the system is now aware that you owe money, and they are expecting and watching to see if you're going to make a payment. You can make that payment at any time in the 29 days following that statement date. You could pay it the very next day if you want. You could pay it 5 days later, 10 days later, 27, 28, 29 days later. It's all the same. Binary, yes or no. As long as that payment comes in within that time frame, you met your obligation, you get an on-time payment mark, and that on-time payment mark pushes your credit up. And so to bring all of this together, all you have to do to build really good credit is charge at least $25 a month, leave that on there until the statement date, and then pay it off. And if you automate this, where that $25 is, say, some subscription that you have, and that's the only thing going on that card, and then you just set up an automatic payment out of your checking account to pay that balance off after the statement date, after it reports, your credit is on autopilot, and you aren't paying any interest. You aren't even spending any money you weren't spending anyway. So you aren't going into debt. You're not spending anything extra. And you can throw that card and the next card and the next card and the next card that you do that on. You set them all up that way. Then you can throw them in a drawer. And every month they are cranking out positive payment history for your credit resume without you doing anything. Easy as that. So, credit cards can be your best friend. Learn how they work, learn how to use them properly, and they will serve you well.